Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Krista. Spooky season is nearly upon us, so I'm going to share 4 easy Halloween DIYs using items from Dollar Tree and Hobby Lobby. So let's get started. DIY number 1 is a spooky moon sign. So I began this DIY by using these wood shapes that I found at Meijer, but they have them at most craft stores or Dollar Tree. And I painted the cat black, and then Halloween black, and then the happy orange. And then I dried the signs and flipped them over and painted the back of the signs. I wanted to distress the sign, so I used a black paint marker on Happy, and I just kind of went around the edges and kind of like made little marks. And then I used a white paint marker on Halloween and did the same thing. Now I'm just taking a moon sign that I found at Dollar Tree and I removed the design. I wanted the moon to look more realistic, so I just took this piece of scrapbook paper that I found at Hobby Lobby, placed the moon on there, traced around it, and then cut it out. Now I'm just taking some Mod Podge and putting it on the sign using a foam brush, and then I place the piece of scrapbook paper that I cut out on top of the moon, and then I put Mod Podge on top of the paper. Now I'm just drying the sign, and I took hot glue around the edges of the paper and pressed that down, and then I trimmed off any excess scrapbook paper. Now we're going to work on creating stars that dangle from the moon, so we're going to begin by taking some gold paint, and you'll notice it got mixed a little bit with the orange. That's okay, it kind of gives it more character. And we're painting those. And while those are drying, we're going to glue down the cat and the Happy Halloween wood cutout. And now I'm just taking some rusty wire and I cut it off at 3 different lengths. And we're going to use this to create the stars that are dangling from the moon. Now we're going to flip our stars over and paint the other side. I decided to give the cat a collar, so I just flipped the sign over, took a little piece of twine, and glued one piece to the back of his neck, and then I wrapped it around and glued it down, and then cut off the excess twine. Now we're going to work on creating dangling stars, so I just put a little bit of hot glue onto the stars and stuck the wire to the star, and I did that for each of the stars. I wanted to make the sign a hanging sign, so I took a paintbrush and poked it through the scrapbook paper to create a hole, and then I fed the twine through the hole, and then I tied a loop, and then I cut off the excess. I couldn't get the wires to stay on the back of the sign, so I took a little piece of felt and glued it onto it and it kept them in place. And here's how my adorable moon sign turned out. I absolutely love that you could use easy products that are fairly inexpensive and create such a cute sign. DIY number 2 is a cute but creepy spellbook. I began by taking this spellbook that I found at Dollar Tree and some napkins and then some Mod Podge, and I put Mod Podge on the spellbook and then I layered the napkins onto it and kind of like crinkled them up to make them look aged. And then I put more Mod Podge and I did this for 3 times. Once I have 3 layers of napkins on the spellbook, I went ahead and dried it and then I took some black paint and painted over the entire spellbook. I found that it was easier to do the front section and the side sections first, and then I dried them, and then I went back in and I did the back of it. I just took this distress pad and I rubbed it all over the spellbook, and this made it look more old and aged and kind of like creepy. And then I just painted the inside of the spellbook black. I wanted to distress the inside of the spellbook, so I used gold acrylic paint and hazelnut by Waverly. I wanted to create witches' notes for the inside of the book, so I took a plain piece of computer paper and I tore them up and wrinkled them to make them look kind of aged and distressed. And then I took a distressing pad and rubbed them all over the pieces of paper. Now I'm just taking a white colored pencil and I'm kind of tracing out what I wanted to say on the front of the spellbook, so I just did spells. And then I used white puffy paint and traced over that. And this takes a minute to dry, so you want to make sure that you set it aside and if you want to work on something else. I let these dry for a couple of hours, and then once they were dried to touch, I took the distress pads and kind of rubbed them over the letters. Now we're going to add some words to our pieces of paper that we tore up earlier. So I just wrote like love potion or prosperity potion and just kind of wrote out different things that a witch would need. And then once I had them where I looked, and once I had them how I wanted them to look, I took some hot glue and glued them onto the inside of the book. Now I'm taking some half-word circles that I got off Temu, and I took some gray and black paint and mixed it together, and this is kind of creating a thumbtack, so it looks like the witch kind of stuck the notes onto the inside of her spellbook. Now we're going to decorate the front of the spellbook, so I took these spider rings that I found at Dollar Tree, and I cut off the ring part of it using some wire cutters, and I have some wood stars, and I painted the spiders and the stars gold. Once the puffy paint is completely dry, I just took some gold paint and brushed it over the word spells. Once the spiders have dried, I did a second coat of gold paint, and then I glued the spiders and the stars onto the front of the spellbook. And then I rubbed the distressing pad over the spiders and the stars. I added some of these gemstones that I found at Hobby Lobby to the center of the stars. I found these really cute potion bottles at the Target dollar spot. They were only $1 a piece, so I thought they would be the perfect addition to the spell book. And then I took some popsicle sticks, cut them down to size using miter shears, and I stained them with wood tint, and then I glued them into place. I decided to add some vertical shelves, so I cut 3 more pieces, and I just measured them by putting them into the spell book and then made a little mark and then cut them with my miter shears. And then I glued them down, and I think it looks adorable. I wanted the spell bottles to adhere to the bottom of the spellbook better, so I took some felt, cut out little circles to the shape of the bottom of the potion bottles, and then I glued the potion bottles to the felt, and then I glued the felt to the spellbook. I wanted to create a frame to hold the spellbook, so I used this picture frame easel and I painted it with brown and black chalk paint, and then once it was dry I was able to set the spellbook in the frame. And this is how the cute and creepy spellbook turned out. It's one of my favorites. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. DIY number 3 is a jack-o'-lantern with a witch hat. So I began by taking a saucer from a terracotta pot and I painted it with black chalk paint. And then I set that aside and I took a piece of foam and I found like this wood plate. I'm just using it as a template to create the brim of the witch's hat. And then I cut out the foam using some scissors and an X-Acto knife. And then I just placed the saucer in the middle of the foam and traced around it and used the X-Acto knife to cut out the shape. Now I'm just using a safety cone that I got from Dollar Tree, and I placed the piece of foam over top of it and slid it down to create the brim of the hat. And now I'm taking some painter's tape, but feel free to use any kind of tape, duct tape or anything like that, and I'm wrapping it around the cone until I get to the top. And once I get to the top, I break off the piece of tape and I keep going around until it creates the tip of the hat where it's kind of angling down. Once I'm done shaping the hat with the duct tape, I just take a black sock and place it right over the safety cone. And then I take my scissors and I cut a slit on the top of the sock, or I guess the toe of the sock, and then I just keep gluing it down, trimming off any excess material, and then I keep doing that until it shapes to like a witch's hat. And then I take some black chalk paint and paint over the sock and the brim of the hat. Now I'm taking a black piece of felt and setting the hat on top of it, tracing around it, and then I cut it out. And then I take the saucer and place it in the center of the black felt, trace around it, and then cut that in half. And then I slide it down over the safety cone onto the hat, and this makes the brim of the hat look more finished. And then I just glued the felt onto the piece of foam using hot glue and trimmed off any excess felt. Now I'm just taking the metal pail and a piece of foam, and I used the metal pail as a template, and I cut out the foam and I glued the piece of foam to the pail so the pail would glue better to the hat. Now I'm just taking the hat, I flipped it over and I painted the edges of the safety cone black. This kind of gives it a more finished look. And then I dried it, and now we're going to start assembling the pumpkin witch. So I just took the piece of foam and some hot glue and I stuck it right to the pail, and then I glued the hat to the piece of foam. I took a piece of black felt and glued it over the gap between the cone and the brim of the hat, and this kind of makes it look more finished. And then I took some spider ribbon that I found at Dollar Tree and glued it to the base of the hat. Now I'm taking some fairy lights and putting them into the metal pail, and it kind of makes it light up so it looks like a jack-o'-lantern. And this is how our pumpkin witch turned out. I absolutely love him. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know by leaving a pumpkin emoji in the comments down below. DIY number 4 is a spooky ghost sign. This is by far the easiest DIY in the whole video, and it uses products completely from Dollar Tree. I started by taking this jar sign that I got at Dollar Tree, and I removed the twine and the heart off the front. And then I took these ghost napkins and I cut out one of the squares, and I set that aside, and then I painted the jar using black chalk paint. After I dried the sign, I took some Mod Podge and kind of made like a rectangle where I want the napkin to go, and I placed the napkin on the sign, and then I brushed Mod Podge over the top of the napkin. After I dried the Mod Podge, I took a little bit of black chalk paint and kind of like brushed it around the border of the napkin. This kind of makes it look distressed. And then I took this spooky sign that I found at Meijer. It was only $1 for the pack. And then I took white chalk paint and painted over it. And I took some striped twine and tied it around the top of the jar where the galvanized metal and the sign meet. And I did this 2 times. And then I just distressed the spooky sign using black and tan distressing pads. And then I glued it into place. And now I'm going to take some spider webbing that I got from Dollar Tree, and I cut off a small piece, and I kept stretching it out and making it look thinner and thinner. And then I pulled it up to one corner below the spooky sign and one corner on the other side, and I glued those into place. And this is how the spooky ghost sign turned out. I absolutely love it. I want to know which DIY was your favorite. Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. See you in the next one.